So how long have you been home from prison now, man?
97, 96, when I came home, 96.
So almost 30 years.
Yep.
So wow. So after our first interview, right, I had interviewed 10 Toes Down.
Okay.
And he said that the narrative that the Bloods were created because of the Latin kings oppressing them is not entirely true because it was happening on both sides. He says the narrative comes from one building, C73, and there's HDM, C95, C74, C76.
The beacon or facility. Yeah.
So he said it was happening on both sides. But where is it coming from that people keep on just trying to push like one agenda?
What, the narrative that there was, that's why they formed?
Yeah.
I mean, it got to a point that the nation was so strong, bro, that you could look at it as oppression because it didn't matter what building you hit the island at one point. Like, I'm going to say like 93 going into 94 was like one of our strongest times on Rikers Island. 92, that's when it started getting strong. But 93, 94, it didn't matter what building you landed, there was always a king phone in that house. So there could be one king in that house and he had the phone. And he had control of the phone. Just one king being in the house. That's how strong it got. So, you know, you could, once you get that big and dominated, some people might feel oppression and feel that way. Was there oppression? There might have been some oppression. There was a lot of racial shit, like I said. You know what I mean? There was definitely a lot of racial shit going on. And
but it was both sides, though, like he's saying.
It was both sides. It was both sided. Like, all right. For instance, when I first started getting locked up, like in the 80s, right? When I first getting locked up and I started hitting like C74 and those buildings, it was a borough thing. It was either you was with Brooklyn, you was with the Bronx, each borough had like sections. And that's how the buildings, the wars and all the bullshit was ran by boroughs. The thing is, the Latinos, you would come in and you be a victim. Unless you was somebody that let your shit hang, you was going to be a victim because the majority at that point was Black. So it comes a time now when the Spanish now start coming through with all the drug rage, with all the TNTs and all the Latinos coming out here. Because when the block started getting crazy, they'll do a sweep and they'll call Puerto Rico and get 20 dudes sent on the next plane to serve the block. So, or the DR, and the blocks would get flooded with Latinos. So there was so many Spanish people coming in at one point. And the difference is, again, we go back to the culture situation. You might come into a house and there'll be a couple of Latins in the house and they'll come up to you and be like, yo, you all right? Where you from? Blah, blah, blah. What you need? You need some soap? You need toothpaste? You need this? You need that? And it's not on the old school jail thing, never take anything from anybody. It's doing it because you are Latino. You know what I'm saying? They're looking out for their own. So they had this cultural thing. Now, as time goes on, that little unity starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, obviously, some type of abuse goes on because now they got the majority. So it depended on the building you landed in. So, you know, if you went to C95 was majority Latin because they had a lot of, they had the methadone program there. So there was a lot of Latins like to do their gang thing. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of drug addicts that go in there and everybody that wanted to be around the Latinos were fake having drug habits just to get put into that building. If you landed like in the 3 building was more half and half. HDM, that shit was where all the fucking killers, you know, the high classification was at. That was where all the Goonie Google. So yeah, it was abuse on both sides. It wasn't like a lot of people painted like, oh, it was this and that.